Welcome, everybody. Today we are talking about right, don't cheat, ethics in the use of AI in academics. And we have a wonderful presenter with us today. Her name is Alex Omastika, and she is a librarian here at HCC. And we are so excited to have you, Alex. You are doing such wonderful work in AI. Thank you for coming and presenting today.
Thank you, Jana, again for, hosting this series and having us back. So my name is Alexandra. Everybody calls me Alex, and you're welcome to call me Alex too. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to chat with us or on mute. So I have a presentation that I'm going to share and some things that I want you to know. We're going to have a little bit of a talk here about writing or not cheating in college, right? And how can we try to use AI in an ethical way? So, when we are working on this topic, I want you to know that my approach is to encourage you to use AI in an ethical way, not necessarily to stay away from it, right? So there's different things that you can do, but there's a certain type of mindset that you need to adopt when you're working in with AI and writing. And then you might want to consider some of the concepts and ethical aspects that you should think about, and some things like pitfalls that you should avoid. Okay, so I have a little bit of a question for you, and I'm gonna drop that on the chat. You can click on the link to go to a small survey. Let me share this fairly quickly. And I will also be sharing the presentation with all of you. So here we go. Click on that link that I share on the chat. And then we're going to see what your answers to that are. And I conducted this survey last year too, in the fall, when I did this session. And we're going to compare the answers and see what's different this year. Let me go back here. And it's just two different questions. Are you using AI to write? And what do you think about using AI for writing? You can also scan this QR code if you have your phone with you or any other mobile device. All right. Okay. So this time around we are 50-50. And in regards to using AI for writing, we have skepticism. Some people believe, oh, one more came in, so majority is a no today, right? Some people think it might be helpful. It is nice when you want to soften tone. Oh, that's a very interesting point. Um, but they never want to write for them, and it is unethical when using class. That's like unethical completely, right? And I think AI can help grammar issues and help you make sentences and paragraphs sound more put together. So thank you so much for sharing your responses. If you notice, compared to the ones for last year, um, these were the results. So a great majority is still in the no, right? No, we're not using it. But there's people that are using it. And in comparison to last year, let me go back here one second. See if I can move this up. Last year, they commented that they were using it for writing emails correctly, and they also share using it for grammar and correcting themselves. But at the same time, it was not okay to use it just to dictate your writing. So if you notice, there is a trend where it's kind of like we understand that we should not just use it to take over our creative writing process, okay? But at the same time, there are some areas like grammar in which AI can be helpful. Now, I want you to keep that in mind as I go through um, this presentation, because the reality is that there are many students that are using it, and when I say students, I say even professors, staff members. So there's a widespread use of AI in writing, but there are different ways of doing it so that we can, stay within the boundaries of what is academically acceptable. Okay, so overall, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence, and there's a point when we need to make sure that we share a common language. So, generally speaking, artificial intelligence is an entire field, right? And right now, when we talk about artificial intelligence, a lot of people apply that AI to other things like large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, or even generative AI for producing content. So keep in mind that I may use the terms AI or generative AI throughout this presentation. Okay. So then when we are talking about AI and let's say our work and our writing, one of the things that you should consider is how is it that you're going to use AI in a way that is correct and respectful of ethics in the context of, academia. And I also want you to consider the concept of academic integrity and how is it that you produce materials in a way that responds to academic standards, where you acknowledge the role of information sources, of authors, of other people. And even when you acknowledge yourself as the creator, not only surrendering your process to a system that is basically predicting which words should be placed next, instead of having you select the choices of what's going to be presented to your audience. Okay. So, in academia right now, I can share with you that everybody is worried about plagiarism, about ghostwriting, other people, relying too much on AI because of the impact that this has on original production, right? And there's also the issue of how AI may amplify bias. And not only when we talk about bias, we're talking about the data that AI is using for production, but we're also talking about our own biases amplified in the way that we use different systems. Because depending on how you phrase, on how you prompt, there are parts of working with AI in which you might unintentionally like take the AI down the path that leads to predictions that are not necessarily in alignment with what you want. And we're going to see that with an example that we have later. Okay. So some things that are really critical for everybody to remember is that as to this day, AI will hallucinate, it will fabricate different things that are not authentic, and it will also sometimes, depending on which model you're using, which large language model, you might see outputs degrading, right? Because this is just putting words together one after the other, and sometimes it steers in paths that perhaps you are not prompting it to do. It makes mistakes. It can lead to different instances of bias and stereotyping depending on what type of interaction and what you are doing with AI. And then there could be like this loss of what is it that we're doing, because the AI looks as at its universal data, and it may feed from something that you are not intending. Okay. And then one thing that is really important also for us to understand is that when we're working with these systems, we don't know where that text that they are putting on the screen is coming from. We don't know the age of where that information that we see on the screen produced. So then here I make a distinction, because some people, I hear them now saying, well, artificial intelligence has this knowledge that I can use, and I kind of like I get a little bit scared, right? So The reason being that there is a certain model in which you really look at the world, and you try to understand distinctions between data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. So some people portray that as a pyramid in which you actually, what you observe, you write down, right? And that becomes a data. And then when you interpret data, you produce a certain type of information. Once you internalize that information and maybe you synthesize it, explain, you do like higher order thinking things, then you get to the point where you're producing knowledge, right? So some people get a little bit confused. So I can tell you that whatever output is coming from any type of AI source is not knowledge. Knowledge happens within you, right? It's not something that is outside, and you share your knowledge, you share what you're learning. So then when you're writing and you are just kind of like using the system that like can produce, thousands of records, oh my goodness, imagine that's not your knowledge. It's just a system predicting something. It doesn't represent you, right? So keep that in mind also as you're working with the system, because one thing that is very interesting is that everybody on this call, right, you all have your own unique areas of expertise. Even if you think that you might not be an expert, you have a lived history, your life, right? The way you've interacting. So you have a certain perspective that you bring. And some people call this your knowledge funds. Okay. You bring some knowledge from your lived experience. And AI, generative AI, large language models, it doesn't have any of that. It's not human. It's not thinking. It's not predicting. But you can steer artificial intelligence tools in ways that can support you. So I'm going to stop here for 1 second. Does everyone have a question or a comment? You can type it on the chat. If you're good to go, let me know and I shall continue. You can give me a go. Seems like we're good to go. Okay. So one thing that I also want to emphasize right now is this whole idea about psychopathic responses. Please, if at some point you need support because you're dealing through very difficult life circumstances, or if you're experiencing something that is adverse, do know that Houston City College, offers you guidance. You can always consult with a counselor. You can talk to your professors, your advisors, your librarians, and your tutors. So don't rely on AI for personal, advice. So, why is it that we care about AI so much? The reason is that when we are working with you as you go towards, finishing and achieving your degree, right? In our process, we assess the integrity of your work, right? So work that is generated by AI, it doesn't count as your work because it just did not come from you. We want to see you developing your skills. And specifically, writing skills are very important because they delimit the way you communicate with other people. And that is critical in today's, like, it's always, communication is always a critical factor in the way you transmit information, right? And if you just surrender your communication style to AI, it might be that you don't develop your own. And then the other thing that we emphasize is that when we're talking about your degree and you complete your coursework because of your writing and your originality, we are saying that your credential has value. So it represents something real, not something made up, right? And let me tell you, now there's even problems in the field because I don't even know how this is working, but some people, they're just unleashing chatbots on academia in such a way in which they pass themselves as student taking classes. So don't be surprised if in the future you start seeing more verification of you being a live human, okay? So we worry about that because we want to create an environment in which education really shows your growth, right? no the growth, not the growth of a system. So one thing that is really important for you in the context of Houston City College is that you always ask your professors for guidance about using AI in your class. As a student, you should make no assumptions that using AI, generative AI, or large language models is okay in a class if you didn't ask your instructors. In my experience working with my colleagues, some of our instructors are not allowing the use of any type of AI. All the instructors allow the use of AI to a certain extent. And then you have other instructors that are integrating AI into their ways of teaching. So then it is your responsibility to always make sure that you are conducting yourself in a way that is ethical and correct in regards to the use of AI and other tools too, right? Because we have a lot more tools in college beyond AI. So you should conduct yourself in a rightful way that is in alignment with our student code of conduct and our academic integrity practices, okay? So then as you engage in this process of considering, evaluating how is it that you are going to use I want to emphasize something that is very important. That I went to a conference last week and people were talking about this, and it has to do with you as the creative human that you are. So, you represent the human in the loop in the process of writing, in the process of creation, in the process of creating projects. So your tone and your voice, your syntax, your grammar, and the way you compose is very unique to you. Okay. So when you surrender this to AI and then you just let AI write for you, it is not your voice. It is not your work, right? So it really does not represent who you are. So keep that in mind, because as you're going to see, now there is a tendency to, over rely on AI for, let's say, grammar, but you have to make sure that you play with these systems so that perhaps you correct the grammar, but you don't change your syntax, your tone, and your voice. Okay. And the reason why this is something that you should consider is this: as you're in school, you're going to be producing in a certain way, but then perhaps once you hit the workplace, the expectations are different. Okay. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. At no point should you just surrender who you are to a device so that the device can do for you. Because that's why so many people are afraid of AI taking their jobs. Because once the device can do the job, well, what happens to the human? Well, we don't need it anymore. And by now, I don't know if you have seen the news, it's kind of like proven that this is not working that much for the people that are, like, saying reducing their workforce, because they're finding that they have to bring people back to correct code, or they're finding that they have to bring people back because they're not able to perform the functions but the system, because not everybody's trained the same way. So writing, for any course, or writing code too, has a lot to do with you and the capabilities and capacities that you develop. All right. And that's really, really important for you to remember. Don't surrender yourself to the fear of the AI, or to the robots are coming, or I don't have a future. Do not do that. Stay positive and evaluate the tools, and then consider, how can I use them, in the context of what I am doing, either for work or for your personal life. So one thing that I'm going to emphasize here has a lot to do with the library. Because AI, it's all over, and a lot of people sometimes are now relying a little bit more on other ways of finding information. I want you to always remember that in academia, a place to find reliable information is going to be your online library. Okay. And the library has additional sessions and webinars that you can visit to get additional resources and additional help. And not only that, if you wanted to speak with a live librarian right now, some of my colleagues are online and they work our chat line, right? So you can interact with a person to actually get ideas about how to drive a topic, about how to find sources. And in addition, let's say you needed to work with a tutor, to the tutoring center is also online. So don't think that there's not a human at ACC right now that is not ready to help you, because we are, right? So that's really important for you to remember. Now, I have to say this: if you are, one of our students that like working at 2 in the morning, that might be a little bit different, okay? Because we don't do chat sessions at 2 a.m. But if you drop a question at an hour that is a little bit different, because some of us work like at 3 or 4 in the morning as students, we get to that question the next day, okay? So always remember that we are here to help, and that we want you to know that you can come for us for assistance. So when you are thinking about this whole process of integrating I want you to remember and consider what is knowing and what integrity is, right? And if you have not thought about these things first, uh, now might be a good time to start considering some of these ideas. So, for example, like if you are using AI to locate information, did you check that those sources that AI gave you are the best choices that you are using for your writing? Or, are these facts, or is it like a blog, right? And then in the process of using AI, and it's almost like you can triangulate, the use of AI with the way that you are operating, and you can even compare this to other ways of finding information and writing. Okay, so take your time and really think about, what do you think knowing is, and how do I practice integrity in the way that I produce. So one thing that I'm going to highlight here is that in the context of academia, if you are allowed to use AI, depending on where you are, you have to cite the use of AI. Okay. There are different ways of doing it depending on the type of system that you're using. If you're using the APA, American Psychological System, you cite it in a certain way. If you're doing MLA, it's a little bit different, right? There's not where one is right or wrong. It is whether you are citing. Okay. Um, so it's really important for you to remember this and take notes as you are doing your work of the types of things that you are thinking about. And of course, by now you've seen that the chat logs that you have with different AI modes keep the history of what you're doing. Okay. So the prompts that you are using are going to be important for you when you are using AI to create text. So let's go back, because I have some examples here that I want you to see. In this slide, I have examples of how to cite um, in APA and MLA. At the top, you have what will be APA. It's like a template for the reference, and this one is for MLA. So it gives you a little bit of a guideline. And then here, this is how it will be in text. Now, if you notice, I created this in Gemini, okay? So I prompted Gemini for that list. Now, is there another source for me? This is the same, but for ChatGPT. Do I have another way of verifying my information? I absolutely do. This is the exact same information from the MLA website, right? So if I wanted to really double check, I can go and then I can see what MLA, the Modern Language Association, is saying in regards to how is it that I am going to cite AI. And then I can also do the same thing with APA. So I just don't rely on the models, because I know as a librarian that I have my citation styles, and I can even go grab the book, and I usually do that. Especially when there's questions about how to cite generative AI in writing, or any other type of citation that is very complex. The reason is that, usually when working with some of my students, if we have citations or we are using materials that it's a little bit, let's say, out of the normal, like a print book or an online web page, it is very good to know exactly what the citation style says, just in case the professor says, no, you cited this wrong. And I can say, no, no, please look at this example from the official publication about how to cite sources, right? So that then, I make sure that I verify. Okay, I see around me some students that are just using so many different tools to get, elements of citations and then drop them on the AI without really verifying how that should be. So you're always welcome to visit a library or work with a tutor, and we'll make sure to, guide you in the process of making sure that your citations and your references are correct for your papers. That's critical, because that's your citation system, and how you do that when you're writing tells your professor where you got your source from. It tells your professor where you're citing or paraphrasing, right? So in that way, you're building up the way you write based on good sources and good practices, not just what the AI can say. And in this session, we don't talk about evaluating AI outputs, but let me tell you that we're seeing some things that are scary in terms of you using a device to get, maybe some web links, and then AI giving you things that are completely wrong at the top. So be very mindful of what's going on out there. Let me go back here. Now, on the screen, what you're seeing is a screenshot of a paper. I'm also a student at the grad level, and our professor last semester, she demanded that we add a transparency statement at the bottom of our starting page, right? So right there, I had to identify what type of AI I was using. I use Grammarly to make sure that, my grammar is correct, and I it identified that I use SIGT as a grammar. So this is something that is being encouraged in some citation styles, and I highly encourage you that if your professor allows you to use AI, that you do so. Now, I'm gonna stop here for a moment. Does anybody have any questions? You can type a question on the chat, or you can unmute and share it. Okay. Seems like we don't have any questions at this point. Um, Before I go into some of the AI tools, oh, okay, we have a question. Go ahead. Odigwe has a question. You have your hand up. Okay, I see you're typing it. Thank you. Okay. We're seeing what question we're getting. Oh, excellent question. How do I proceed to learn formatting and citation with the library? I'll get to your question. We have another question incoming. And I have to show you from the screen. Yeah, there okay. And then yeah, I was asking, should we ask professors first if we are allowed to use AI? Because most of the course syllabus explains that we cannot use AI. Well, thank you for highlighting that. So the answer to that is yes. You should all, even with your syllabus statement, first of all, it's good that you're checking your syllabus statement, and the syllabus is going to say it should have a statement about AI. If you find a statement there, then that means that um you might not be able to use it. But in this moment, I cannot interpret your professor's syllabus. And instead of you reading and maybe guessing, it is always good to speak to your professor and ask that question. Okay. Um, because there are certain ways of using AI, or AI is being integrated in some ways, like you see Copilot integrations in Word, right? That it might be AI telling you to do something, or maybe even we don't even recognize it. So it's very good for you to clarify, can I use, some tools to revise my grammar or my syntax, right? Or can I not, and then rely on what your professor says, okay? Remember, the professor is always the professor of record is always the person that is going to tell you how to integrate or not integrate AI into your classes. So thank you for your question. Yeah, let me know if I answered that or if you have any additional questions. Thank you. Okay. And now I am going to share my screen again. And I'm going to the library, hccs.edu. Okay. So from here, I'm going to go to my Eagle student sign in, and I'm going to scroll until I find that tile that says library, because we're going to look at how can you learn to do citations from the library. First of all, we have some research guides here. I'm going to open the research guides, and within the research guides, hopefully it's here. It's not, if I'll find it in the other way. I always go from Google. Now you're going to see HCC, MLA. Here we have the guide for MLA, and I'm dropping that in the chat. This one is for MLA, okay? Let me go back here. When I'm working on APA, this is the one that we use. So if you wanted resources to learn those two citation styles from the library, this is a spot where those 2 pages you can visit. And I'm going to switch back to the one for MLA, because that's one of our most used ones. In this page, at the top, you're going to see different tabs for the elements, citing books, citing periodicals, right? Citing online sources, in-text citations. So these pages contain information about how to cite, okay? That's one way of learning. Another way of learning is here under research and writing. You have the style guides right here, and research and writing. So I'm going to show you these parts too. This is the page that I was looking for. This one has MLA 9th, making citations, APA Chicago, and everything down below. Okay, so let me share this too. Now, another way let's say you want to attend a webinar, right? You want a session like this, but only about citations. If you want to attend a session like that from the library, what you want to do is you want to go to the library here, want to scroll down, and you want to go here to the webinars, and you want to scroll down a little bit more to see what's being offered. So right now we have, today is the 25th. So on the 27th, that's Friday, right? No, is it Friday? Yes, that's Friday. Is it Friday? Yes, on Friday, there's one about MLA. Then the next Friday, there's also one about Chicago, right? And then there's another one about citation and signal phrases, right? So these are different webinars that we have that are related to citation. Let's check next month. For March, we have Chicago style. Later on, we have something about plagiarism too that you should definitely consider attending, because they're going to definitely talk about citations in there, how to avoid plagiarism. And towards, let's see, that's are the ones that we have for now. And if you scroll down, you can see additional. So if I wanted APA or MLA, I could click here, and then you will see additional webinars about that. Okay, let me see. Odiwa, did that help? Do you know where to go to find? Let me paste the link to the webinars. Okay, thank you. I see Pastrana is typing. Let's see. And those webinars are offered throughout the year, okay, by different ACC librarians. So you're always welcome to attend multiple times, okay? You don't need, you just need to go once. And they're very, very, very good. Oh, thank you, dear. Thank you. Okay. So then one thing that I didn't show you, since we have the question, I really want to know you to have a glimpse at that, is that when you're on the library site, you see where it says here, ask a librarian. Um, you have an option of using this button at the bottom for ask us, or at the top for ask a librarian. And I'm gonna use the one at the top, right? I'm gonna scroll down, and I'm going to say my name, Alex, my contact info. I'm gonna place my personal email. I recommend you use your W number when your email, your student email, okay? That's really important. And I'm gonna place demo. But in your case, if you had a question about a citation or finding a source, uh, you can place your question here. Give us as many details as you can, but don't copy paste your entire assignment, okay? And then I'm gonna start the session. And what happens is, on the other side right now, one of my colleagues is connecting, and it's Dr. Crispin. So she's writing her message, right? Um, and I'm gonna say, have a good day, right? And then I'm gonna close the chat on the X, and I'm gonna say she did great, because she did. I appreciate that. And because I put my email, now I can send myself that transcript. So then, if at some point I wanna, revisit this, then I can go back to that transcript and then see what happened in my interaction with a human on the other side. That's one thing. Another thing that you can request is a consultation, and you can do this online. So you can request a librarian to work with you in a one-on-one session. Usually, I use WebEx. Some of my colleagues use WebEx too. So keep that in mind. Okay. Any other questions? If you have any other questions, drop them on the chat. I really appreciate the way that you're thinking, right? Now I'm gonna share something that sometimes is a little bit controversial, but you should know. So, um, when you're using AI, some people like writing and getting everything now through AI. If you cannot use it, don't use it. But if you're allowed, you need to consider what is it, what are you doing, and how is it that you're using some AI tools to retrieve information. And there's two tools that are becoming increasingly popular in academia that go, this is not like using Google or Bing, or which is the other one I forget. Google, Bing. I don't even. Some people are using DuckDuckGo. That's another one. Um, so when we're talking about sometimes information retrieval, there's two tools that are really popular. One is Elicit, and the other one is Semantic Scholar. Now, these two sites run based on artificial intelligence technology, but they themselves are not going to give you any type of writing. Okay, this is just for information retrieval. So I will say that before you go try to use AI, like tools like maybe Gemini, Claude, or even ChatGPT for retrieval of information, I highly recommend that you check this out. Okay, so they are very powerful, and they are evolving rapidly. Okay, and they are special. It's especially Semantic Scholar. It's the product of a foundation. So this is something that you should know. Okay, and of course you have your library databases too that you can use. But what you need to consider as you're writing and you're about to start, getting sources or finding information, is that you need to know where your information is coming from. Okay, is your information coming from a book? Is your information coming from a reputable website? Did you get this from a peer review article? Because that's one of the pitfalls of using AI for writing. Because the AI is just predicting words. You don't know what it's using to predict that, right? So it's a little bit different when you are kind of like getting your sources and then writing and using AI to verify, let's say, syntax and grammar, versus kind of like just having the system do everything for you. Okay, so now let me go back here. So when you have a moment, check those two out. Now, what are positive ways of using AI in an ethical way for writing? So you can technically, brainstorm with AI. You can use it for language support, maybe a little bit of research as assistance, but I'd rather you are very selective in how you're doing that, right? Definitely draft revision and organizing, right? And one thing that is really important in your use of AI is that point of ethical reflection, where you can actually look at your work and determine, am I the one doing the work, or am I surrendering my work to AI? Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. And in this presentation, I'm gonna share on the chat something else. I have a link to prompting. So we have another presentation that is just for prompting. So if you want to learn how to interact with AI, you can try that there. Okay. So my call to action for you is that you really consider that AI can enhance your learning, but your integrity is what really is going to keep the process aligned with what's expected of you in the classroom, right? So AI is something that can be like an assistant, but it certainly should not be something that is completely takes away your mode of production. And let me real quick share you here. That is the presentation that I share with you. So within the presentation that I share today, there are links that you can actively use. Okay. And now for probably like a few moments, we're gonna go look at some tools, right? Uh, that I want you to be aware. of use and like some pitfalls, right? So right now I am in ChatGPT, and this is a free version, okay? So it's not a full pay for one. If you notice, if I am like in this environment and I click on the plus and I go to more, there is a study and learn mode, okay? That is a little bit different than then using the regular version. So if I wanted to create a quiz about something new that I want to learn, let's say that I'm going to wait for the AI to prompt me, right? And perhaps I want to learn about, you know what? Geometry. And I just placed geometry and I didn't say anything else, just one word. I'm going to put more constraints in there, right? And I want to say I'm learning about that topic. I'm making it up. And it's still asking more questions. So if you notice, it's not really giving me a full output, right? So the interaction here is a little bit different than if you were just using a regular chat here, right? To get answers out. So that's one thing that you may want to consider. Also, if you are in study mode um, here, right? Study and learn, one thing that you can do is that you can add files. So if you have a document that you can add and you wanted to organize that document and work with it, that's something that you could do. Another powerful tool is Notebook LM. This one is very popular. So if you try to use this tool, the way it works is that you upload a document to the tool. I'm not going to upload one right now. You upload a document and then you interact with the system in analyzing that document. But the neat part of it is on the right side when you can create a mind map, you can create flashcards and quizzes. So this can help you analyze a document and then organize the way that you're going to learn about it, okay? And at the same time, if you're writing, you can always prompt for ideas to write, okay? The same for Gemini. This one is also the free version. And if you go to help me learn and you click that, notice that the mode is now guided learning. So then it will open some options for you. But right here, if I wanted to say, how can I learn about how to write an argumentative essay? The system is going to predict. And it's guiding parameters, and then it's going to give you a different output. Okay. So here are some elements. He's talking about the thesis statement, claims of evidence, counter and counter arguments, and then it will give you some options, right, about some things that you could do. Okay. So depending on what you put in there, that's going to be the quality of your output. Now we have another one that a lot of people like to is Claude. And if you notice, all of the systems that I'm showing you work in a similar way. Okay. So in Claude, it's really interesting because if I go to learn, and let's say that I scroll down, let me see if I can make the screen a little bit smaller. I cannot. I'm going to say that I'm going to write. You're going to get an output that is going to start explaining to you a certain kind of process, okay? Now, earlier today, I was working in Claude, and this was related to annotated bibliographies. And then it got to the point where now the system was telling me, do you want to copy paste your resources? Do you want to upload a file? Do I need to identify sources, right? And this is where things start getting murky, okay? And that's where you need to be careful about, right? Because there's a difference between you going into these systems and prompting for, let's say, inspiration, for ideas. And then these systems are so powerful that sometimes when you upload your documents or you give instructions, it's going to do one or two things. It's going to completely revise whatever it is that you're doing, and it's going to take it into a different way from what you thought that you wanted. And even then, sometimes it goes way beyond what you were expecting, and the output becomes massive. And when the output is something that it goes completely beyond what you were expecting, right? Then you run the risk of kind of like hampering your effort in writing, because now you have too much, which librarians will talk and refer to about as information overload. Because the AIs, they don't stop. They keep going, giving me more and more and more options. So you have to be very careful in regards to that use. If you notice, I went through 3 different systems, right? And I am not committed to any of them. Okay, this is kind of like I know them because I need to know how they work as an information professional, but I am not a fan of either of any of them. If you ask me, I am very well, I didn't mention this at the beginning. I am very careful with the way that I use my credentials in this system. So I always recommend that you have a separate email from the email that you're using on your phone, okay? Meaning, don't use one account for these systems and then your personal information. At this point, it's almost necessary for you to have different email accounts that you can use with these systems so that you protect your privacy. Because one thing that is important for all of us to remember is that the information that you're placing across these systems and the prompts, everything is being captured by the system. So don't share your personal information. Don't share anybody's personal information, right? Uh, because it's something that the system is definitely going to try to prevent you from using. So if at any point as you are dwelling in this realm of uncertainty, which is it is a lot, you have any questions, feel free to reach out and let me know how I can help you. Okay, I'll be happy to do so. And reach out to your librarians, reach out to your tutors, and talk to your professors. That is so important. Your professors have office hours, so make sure you set an appointment with them and chat about these topics, okay? So I want to appreciate each and every one of you for attending the session today. And let's see if there's any other questions, comments, pain points, joy points. You can drop them in the chat.
Thank you so much for coming. Does anybody have any more questions? If not, thank you for coming.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye bye.